So Sprint 9 goals, we are just completing Sprint 9, and what we had hoped to do was from a technical perspective, there's some work done on the application and assessing the application, and we'll be showing you that today. Developing a data model for the education program, which we're also going to show you today, and continuing to work on our integration with CRA, which is the Canada Revenue Agency, of course. From a UX UI perspective, we had hoped to start work on our user research plan, which we've started, but haven't been able to finish because we still need to plop in some of the really concrete details. We spent a lot of time working on program, and we're going to talk to you about that and show you today the first kind of concept that's going to be really critical, and I'm super excited about that. At the same time, we're going to show you our student account sitemap. And for some folks, you might recall we had an institution account map. And so we want to show you the structure of the student account, and also inside the institution account, a glimpse at what institution users will see as it relates to student applications. And we had thought we would have a chance to start working on getting ready for confirmation of enrollment, but unfortunately, we were not able to get to that this particular sprint. We're also going to show you some work that we've done on navigating within the institution account, and also some really cool work about adding institution users. We're having a couple of technical problems in there, but we're going to show you some cool stuff today. So those were our goals for the sprint. Just a couple of reminders from a business context. For folks that haven't heard us talk about program, or if this is your first kind of interconnection with us, we have started. Program is one of the areas where we said we want to make changes. It was one of our strategic opportunities, and in fact, our largest strategic opportunity. And so we've been working with Neve and Haley and now the larger project team to really start to actualize the changes that they're envisioning. And one of the most important pieces is understanding that in a future state, and we're going to show that to you this morning, we're talking about program, and we're breaking it apart into two pieces. There is a program and basic program information, and that is something that we check criteria for eligibility against. You approve a program, which is a set of courses that lead to a credential. And then there's offerings. And offerings are really more kind of like semesters or different kinds of things. And so we want to show you how we're thinking about breaking those up today. But I want to start getting folks used to that idea that you can have an approved program and then an institution would add offerings. But those are two separate things, connected but separate. So just a reminder as well that all institution accounts will have the basic institution account and at least one or more locations. And we showed you that in our sitemap. And of course, institution users are going to sign in using a business BCE ID, and there's some work being done around transitioning folks that either are currently using a basic BCE ID and also transitioning folks who have been using manual processes that we are not looking to support in the new system. So getting all institution users to use a business BCE ID and interact with us in a digital way. And of course, just a reminder that students will be signing in using their BC Services card. We are doing some work around that right now, just to make sure that no student doesn't have access, because that's not what we want to promote. So just a quick reminder as we go in, of course, the UX and the UI, we're showing you some design pieces. You're probably going to see some spelling mistakes. You may even see some things that are going to change. Please let us know, though, if you're seeing things that you're concerned about. Don't hold on to those. Let us know, pop it in the chat, share it with us. That way we can make changes as we continue to go forward. We want to hear your thoughts as we go. A reminder that We're going to take the institution account information from CRM and as much as possible, and depending on the activity level, pre-populate that in the new system. But we don't plan on doing that for student accounts. We have a separate process by which we're going to call as need be on this historical student information and then populate that. So we're not going to fill up our system on day one with all of the old student account information. The other thing, and I introduced this concept last time, but it's really critical, is as much as possible, we're trying to build pathways that we can reuse. And so we're going to show you some of the ways in which we're doing that. Because we do that in lots of different ways. So for example, we do that by not building something if another team in government has already built that. We kind of try to borrow their code and build on it. We're also trying to come up with those pathways that are what I call a main road. And if someone is kind of one of those exceptional people or an outlier, we're trying to get them back on the main road rather than creating all kinds of separate processes. We're trying to reuse existing processes as much as possible. So before we go any further, we have talked about the Flying the Airplane as You Fly It video, and I realize that not everybody has seen it. It is one of my personal favorites. So we are going to play that for you just to set the tone for this morning. Michelle, can you play it? And I'm hoping the sound will play from yours if you selected that. Oh no. So we can't hear it. So just if you might have to stop.
Stop.
And
sharing.
when you share, you have to select the share sound. So you might need to stop your sharing and restart it.
All right.
And when you, and here's just a learning for everybody. And when you share, there's a little tiny toggle at the top left that says share sound.
With audio.
That's
share with audio. Yeah,
share
something like
with,
that.
Yeah, it says include computer sound. And so you need to select that little toggle.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, let's see if that works.
Some people like to climb mountains. I like
That's
to
fun, except we can't see the video yet.
in the air. I grew up wanting to be on a wing, wanting to be up this high. Sometimes the temperature up at altitude will reach 60 below. It's brisk, it's refreshing. You never know what you're going to come across up here. Canadian geese, mallards, owls. These people back here, that's why I come to work. That's why I build airplanes in the sky.
We're not just building a plane here. We're building a dream.
I love this job.
I do a lot of things up here. When I look over there and I see that little kid, I look in his eyes, that's all the thanks I need.
All right. So strap on your parachute. All right.
I love this job. We're building a dream.
Yeah. I like the fact that he almost looks like he wants to puke in his mouth a little bit. That's okay. So awesome.
Yeah.
Just wanted to share that with folks as we go for a little fun, and
Yes.
moving on to UX UI.
Elise talks about that video a lot. So
Yeah.
finally get to show it to you. Okay, so Roop is here and he is gonna walk us through the student sitemap.
Hello, everybody.
I'm gonna
Roop.
stop sharing.
I'm going to share my screen then, in the meantime. So we saw just a little while ago this wonderful sitemap over here, which was in its very, don't worry about reading it. I'm not trying to make you read it.
Can you expand your screen? We can see your other screens behind. Make it bigger.
One moment, please.
Thank you. Just in case you were talking in the chat bad about us.
Smack about everybody. No, I wouldn't do that. Come on. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. So yeah, this was the institution dashboard that Lynn walked everyone through a previous sprint review ago. And yeah, so this kind of gives a structure of that institution application. And one thing that, coming back to what Elise said right at the beginning of this, was we want to find pathways and workflows, mental models that we can reuse across all the applications we're building. So so that's a little glimpse of this institution dashboard. Let's move over to the student dashboard and what they're doing here. So I'm going to zoom in probably a little too much, but that's okay, so that way you can read it. So as a student, you log in and you're going to be met with a few main screens. So I'm going to scroll down to each one of them. So your student profile, the managing of application screen, the management of your notifications that are coming through, and the management of your account settings. So let's dig into what each of those really means. So your profile as a student, we have this notion of your profile details. So that's things like the basics of who you are that are going to be needed for every single application you're ever going to want to do with us. That has the ability to be saved to your profile for future use. So you'll be able to view and edit that information right on your profile. The idea is when you create your first application, you'll be able to hit save and it'll get saved to your profile. Also, your permanent disability status. Once that's status has been updated or you've applied for that and now it's a part of your profile, you'll again be able to view that on your profile to see what your status is. The manage applications, the kind of the meat of this, or the vegan veggie patty of this all, is that, you know, we're going to go in here and look at all of the summary of all of the applications that you've done. So you'll be able to view as well as click through one of those applications and potentially edit them. Creating a new application, this is right now we're kind of in this first just full or part-time financial assistance application, but we're working on the permanent disability status at the moment, and there's a whole lot of them that will eventually live within this. So when you click on new, you'll be able to select which one you want to do and go ahead and create that application. And then once you've done that, it'll go to your application summary as an example. Management of notifications is another key piece. It's how we are going to notify our users for things that are happening in their account. I think if you were to think about it in something that you might be familiar with already, it's kind of like the CRA, the way the CRA notifies you to say, hey, you have a message waiting for you, go and check it out, rather than saying right in your email inbox, this is how much you're going to be awarded. Click here to, you know, accept this money. We're not going to do that. So it's going to be in that CRA style of visit your dashboard to come view this information. And there might be some details or actions that you're going to be able to do on each one of those notifications. So that's the hierarchy of that notifications path. Also, there's going to be your account settings. So within here, this has the ability to kind of expand and contract as we have more or less settings that we need. But off the bat, most likely it'll be your notification settings, how you want to be notified, your preferences of email or text or whatever that might end up being, and then potentially some other security settings. Maybe we add two-factor authentication. Probably not, because it's handled by your BC services card. And unless they do that, we won't do that. So anyways, maybe some other settings. It's open to interpretation of what we'll add in the future. But yeah, that's the rundown of the main sections of your student account. When you log in, you've got your profile you're going to see. You're going to be able to manage all your applications and manage all your notifications. Those are kind of the main pieces that you're going to be seeing. On the flip side of that, either in this review or another, we'll show you kind of what an application looks like from the institution view. So what information do they need to perform their tasks? Yeah, that is the student sitemap.
Thanks, Roop. Awesome. Okay, now we're going to pass the mic over and switch our brains a little bit to education programs. And Lynn is going to take the screen. Are you there,
Thanks,
Lynn?
Michelle.
Oh, yes,
I'm
thank
here.
you.
Are you guys able to see my screen? I just shared it there.
Yes.
Awesome. All right, so let's get into it. Hello, everyone. So for this sprint, we worked on education programs for institution users. So Elise was kind of teasing this out in the beginning, where we are looking at splitting up program information and also offerings. But in a sense, they're separate but still together. So I'll kind of walk through what we've done so far. We've been working in this area for about 2 sprints now that included just working closely with the program area. So Neve and Haley, just leveraging that great policy work that they did, which allowed us to kind of create this foundation for moving forward. So it inspired us to create a new education programs workflow. And at the same time, we also wanted to make sure that this new workflow was a positive or is a positive experience for institutions, but also for students as well. So, we worked on quite a complex scenario, but the hardest part is always making a complex scenario seem simple. So I think we got it. So let's get into it. Just a little bit of background of how we got there. As a start, we looked at how we can make it easier for institutions to create a new program in our system, get the program approved for funding through an automated approval process. And also we looked at maintenance scenarios. What does it look like for institution users on a year-to-year basis, such as changing out your study dates? So when we had looked at the current institution experience, we had understood it as the institution would be entering in their program information. And again, program information are things like the program description, the credential type like degrees and certificates. And then they would enter in their offering here. So offerings are what we kind of call like study dates or costs or delivery method. And these, the key differences between the program information and offering is that offerings are likely to change from year to year, whereas the program information, such as program description, credential type like degree, is unlikely to change. So we use that to create, just looking at the institution user experience, we use that to create a new workflow. So as for the new workflow we have here in this little diagram here, an institution user would add their program information that doesn't change, that is unlikely to change often. So we don't need to ask them to input it every time with an offering, and they'll be able to add in offerings based on study dates. So offerings, again, are something that from what we understand, are changed from a year-to-year basis. So what does that look like in terms of visuals? So for those who like workflows, I'll just kind of go into that and also then show you the wireframes, the layouts, and how that's starting to look like. So as part of the workflow, we have the institution user here. They would create a new program. They would enter in their program information, and we would also have on this page the criteria for the program to be approved. So this is eligibility criteria, as an example, would end up here as well. So we would ask them their program information. That would go through the system as an automated approval process. And if that's approved, then we would ask them to add in an offerings detail. And again, those offering details are things like delivery method, dates, costs, locations, and these are stuff that change every year. So what the benefit of doing this is that the institution would put in the program information. Let's say it would get approved for funding, and then once the program is approved, the program information is approved, then the institution user would be able to go in and add in offerings, remove offerings, or edit their offerings as they need from a year-to-year basis. So they don't need to enter in both every year, similar to this example here, what we're doing currently. They just need to add in offerings on a year-to-year basis. And we think that's going to make the experience so much better for the institution user. Instead of submitting this big package every time, they'll just need to, because the program information is already approved, they just need to add in their offerings on a year-to-year basis. So we think that's going to really improve the experience for the institution users. So that's just the workflow in a nutshell, but I'll show you what that looks like in terms of the wireframes here as well. So let's get into it. So here, what we're looking at is we're in the institution portal right now. You can see that I am an institution user, and I am able to access 2 locations, so interurban campus and also Lansdowne campus. However, I am working in, let's say, interurban campus right now, and I just want to look at all the programs that belong within interurban campus. So I'm going to click on programs. I'm going to see all the programs that live within interurban campus. And then I'm just going to see a list of the programs there, but I want to add a new program or create a new program. I'm going to click on create new program. It's going to bring me to that program information page where I'm going to add in that, information, program name, program description, credential types, SIP, etc. Below that, we do have questions that will allow the program to be approved for funding. These questions are still being worked through, but the advantages of having this approach is that we have the program information page. We can continue working on the questions as needed. So we have something that we can give to developers, and then while we still work on some of the questions. So I won't go through individually because we're still working on every one of these questions. So what happens is that once the user puts in once they fill in the questions here, they can click on Save Changes. That's going to put it through an automated approval process like so. You're going to get a confirmation message that says, hey, thank you, we've added your program. You'll be able to add your offering to the program now, so you can continue and add an offering. Or if you don't want to do it right now, you don't need to. You can just load up the program and get it approved, and then look at a later date to add in your offerings as much. So, but for the scenario, we're going to continue and add an offering just to show you what that looks like. So I'm going to click continue and add offering. You're going to come to an offerings page that looks like this, where you're going to be able to enter in your study dates. And again, offerings are things that change from year to year. So you're going to put in your study dates, your study breaks, study costs, tuition. We've also added in tuition remittance in there to plan for the future as well. So we're laying down some foundation, but also planning for how that's going to work in the future as well. So we've had some discussions around that. Again, study delivery date. Now you also notice that there is an add additional offering button. So if I click on that, it's going to give me this view here where the offering one kind of shrinks, collapses down into a smaller view, and then I'm going to be able to add in my second offering. You'll also notice that we've added in a copy from previous offering functionality just to make it easier for the institution user. If they're quite similar in terms of inputting in information, then this will be very advantageous for the institution user, so that they don't have to kind of input every question over and over and over. So that will be great for them. Save changes, and then that again just goes back to we've added the offering to your program successfully, and then that's when the student will see the program information on their end. So this was I would say, quite a complex scenario, but I think we've simplified it enough that we've considered the institution's experience and also planned for what the student's experience will be like when we get there as well. So all in all, with this new workflow, we've allowed institution users to create new programs separately from offerings. They'll be able to load up, let's say, 20 programs, get it approved for funding, and they can always come back to it and add offerings later if needed. And also because the program is already approved, they can add and edit or remove offerings as needed. They don't need to wait on the whole package for that. That also means that from year to year, when they're maintaining these offerings, instead of submitting like about 20 fields, they'll just need to update those 5 fields now. So I think that's going to be quite a nice change for them. And again, as part of this workflow, we're just also laying foundation for the future as well. So altogether, the education program we have a nice foundation where the design is flexible and still scalable enough to add more to it. So you may have some questions around what about bulk uploading or program information requests? How's that going to impact us? We've laid the foundation here, and then we'll be able to pick it up later as well. So design is quite flexible and scalable in that sense as well. So yeah,
awesome.
That's education programs. Over to you, Michelle.
Thank you, Lynn. That was awesome. I know you guys have put a lot of brain power into that. I see we have a lot of questions in the chat. I am capturing them over in the feedback section, so we won't forget them, but keep them coming. So I'm actually going to pass it over to Andrew Schwenker, who's going to talk about Assistive Technology BC and CRA. Do you
go.
need to share a screen or shall I?
No, you can share. That's all
Okay.
good. So quick little update from our Atvc integration thing we've been working on, and basically just to recap this, it's basically to make the systems more or less automatically integrated with each other. So we've actually completed like our first major milestone with it this sprint, which is basically basic connectivity. And the idea behind that being that in basically a click of a button, we can create a client in ATBC's system for them to begin that process with. So we don't need to go through any sort of process. Basically, if somebody requests PD status or something like that, again, more to come on that down the road. But basically, from a technology standpoint, we can basically just create a person in their system. And then vice versa, we can also say or query their system to see someone's status. So we've completed the first major milestone in that basically their system's now set up to do that. They still have some changes to make on their side. But yeah, so that's where we are with the ATBC. CRA integration, you'll see more about this in the product review from Andrew Sigdori. And so basically with this, as you know, to recap from last week as well, we are integrating with the currently running methods to integrate with CRA. There are some ideas and stuff starting to float around about how to modernize that type of thing, but that's going to take likely to take a very long time. So right now we are planning to just integrate with the currently running system, and which basically means we create files and send them off to CRA. We've been working pretty closely with them about how do we handle numbers? Can we send them more than once? What happens? Like, so basically sending files more frequently and all that is going quite well. But actually, I think I'll just leave it at that. And Andrew Sigdori, I think we'll go over more about that in the review.
Awesome. Thank you. Elise, did you have anything to add there? No, good. Okay. Over to product review. So we have Anne. Anne's going to show us locations development, how to navigate through the institution account, and how we can manage users.
Yeah, hello everybody. I'll
Hello.
share the screen. You guys can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is a page when Zoe logins, she'll be landing to this dashboard page. Here she have an option to go to the manage institution page. It will be landing to the location summary page. So this is a page where she can see all the locations she has added. Like in the last demo, I have showed like how to add a location with this form. So once this she add a location from here, it will be listed over here. And also she can go to different pages with from the sidebar, like to the institution detail edit page, manage location summary page, manage designation, so it's in progress, and to the manage users. So this is a page where she can see all the user summary, and here she can add a new user. From this drop down, she can select the user she wants. So I'm now selecting Alice. So now she will be having some options like if she want to make this user an admin, she can select S and she can click add user button. And now when you refresh, you can see the user details over here. She's an admin and she has access to all the locations. Same way, we can add another user. Or maybe this is not an admin, and now I can select a location-based user type. For example, I'm adding this For this location, I'm adding this user as a location manager, and I'm clicking add user, and now when you create and refresh, the user detail will be showing over here. So this is how Zoe can add a new user. So as of now, we have some issues like while creating multiple while adding user type for multiple location, we are having some issues. So we will be probably resolving in the coming sprints.
Awesome. Thank you, Anne.
And just for those that are curious, when Anne was clicking add user there and picking a user, that list of users was coming over from BCEID.
Mhm.
So right there, that is currently going over to BCEID to fetch a list of all the users that belong to, in this case, College F, which is just a test college.
Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. So that means that we'll only be able to add users that have already been added to the BCEID account.
Correct. So if I went over right now and added a user for College F and then Anne clicked add user, you'd see that new person show up.
Yep.
Very safe. Thank you. All right, Anne, is there anything else you wanted to show today?
No, I'm good. Back
Okay.
to Michelle. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, we're going to talk about our goals for next sprint, Elise.
Yes, I can. So sprint 10. Wow, it's going by fast, hey? So we're going to continue to work on this education program piece. So you're starting to see that initial piece of it. Obviously, the technical folks need to figure out how are they going to capture and organize that inside the system. There's also some further analysis for the student needs assessment. We didn't show you that today, but we have done some different pieces of work on how do we gather the information and organize the information in order to assess the application information. So we'll continue to work on that.
Actually, Elise, Guru has planned to show it, and I just skipped right
good.
over them. So we can do that after.
Sure. Okay, let's do that. I'd like folks to see it because it's we're gonna get back to poor Matt and his dangling applications. So yeah, let's do that in a second. So then from a UX UI, we're going to continue to work on the user research plan that we had hoped to get done this particular sprint. We are going to pick up that piece of confirmation of enrollment that again we just didn't get a chance to this sprint, and continue to work on the application questions. Obviously, we need to get ready to feed that in, and that includes incorporating the appeal piece of work that we've identified to avoid students having to make appeal requests for some situations, as well as verifying PD. How's that going to look? What's the screen's going to look like? How are we going to do that? So we're going to do some work on that. Also building some of the education program piece, building that, adding a program, an education program. You're starting to hear us use that, trying to use education program as much as possible. Viewing the education program, and of course, technically sending and receiving student info so that we can validate SIN, because we try and do that as early as possible in the account setup process as we can. And then continuing to build out the location navigation inside the institution location. So it's pretty busy each time. But yeah, let's go back and let Guru show you the student needs assessment piece because it's kind of cool.
Yeah, and then Signori, you'll show some CRA integration. Sorry, I jumped right over you guys there. Guru's going to show us some pretty awesome first draft of the assessment rules. So I'm going to let you share your screen.
Yeah, I'll take it from you, Mitchell. Okay. Hey, hello team. I'm Guru. So in this sprint, like what we are planning to do is like this is the existing assessment needed Excel sheet like which we use to access the need for a student. Okay, so what we did is like we wanted to uh, just fill the gaps, and we wanted to find the major gaps in it, and did the segregations like what are all the values that change year on year, like the examples of the cost incur for a student, like the book cost. These things will be changing. Okay, so but the background, the actual workflow will not change. So kind of these kind of variables which change year on year, and the actual logic which does not change year on year. So we were just segregating these things, and we tried to create a workflow out of it. I would not say it's kind of a final workflow, but it's kind of an flow diagram kind of workflow, or the draft version, which would say, which would enable you to understand like what we have done and what we have understood in it. And also we have created kind of consolidated data models in the sense, see, for example, if you see like for a book cost, for a student who is actually taking a kind of a program for around some 13 weeks. Okay, the book cost that has been approved for him would be like $1,500 or something. So most probably we were just segregating these into consolidated DMNs, and we were able to segregate it with respect to the program years. So for example, for 2021, we have the book cost as 1,500. For 2022, you can just increase the book cost, or you can just have the same thing like 1,700 or something like that. So that this value, on selecting the particular program year, this value will be implemented in our flow logic, and the flow logic will not change. So kind of we have segregated these things. See, if you see the whole the calculation, okay, we have several places, like we have variables which are defined. See, for example, even the to just calculate the MSOL, we have a calculation over it. So like for example, kind of an not here, we have a calculation here, sorry. See, like for a student who are away from home, and for a particular province, what is the actual amount that has been approved for him? So kind of these kind of calculations, we have just segregated it, and we have just created data models. So this is an Excel sheet which I'm showing right now. I'll just go through the actual workflow diagram in a minute. So as per the understanding, what we found is like we add up all the costs that are incurred by the student, and we also calculate all the resource from the student, like the resource calculation. Then we just do a subtraction between these two values, and then finally we'll just find what is the actual assessment needed for a student. So those kind of calculations also we are considering it. And also we have certain calculations. See, for example, this is kind of an calculation which needs certain number of certain number of variables even inside the calculation. See, for example, for this year, we are just giving 15% of the DI amount. But for next year, it may be changing. So we even just move these things into a DMN model. So going back to the actual workflow diagram. So you saw all this diagram, all this data models, right, in Excel. So we just translated them into the actual data model notations in Kamunda's workflow. So this is the actual workflow. So tomorrow, when you wanted to input something for 2023, we just include the 2023 here as a row, and we can just define what is the cost of category we need to define, and then what is the weeks. See, for example, you can define the weeks in a for example, 1 to 32 weeks also, we can just define it here. And with respect to it, we can define an amount for this. So these calculations will go into our actual workflow. So I'll go with the workflow, like how it works. Okay. See, on start of every workflow, you might have seen in every data model, the program here is the kind of an compulsory field, or it's an important field which defines the calculations input. Okay, like sorry, calculations output. So for example, if this program here is not present, all this DMN are not going to work anywhere. So we have created a kind of an gateway, I would say, like it's kind of a gateway workflow which which checks for all the default variables or the default input values which a actual student has to enter in his application, or the workflow has to be feeded in. This is one of the ideas which we introduce it, because see, for example, if a program here is not present in this workflow, the 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 actual workflow will not work. So it may give you it may give some unwanted values out of it. So even if even a small mistake, like like what I would say, like a wanted field is not present, means this will actually fail the result. So we are doing all this validation in the first step, and we are notifying with an email to a kind of an I would say, like kind of an service email that defines us like whether these values are present or not. If the values are present, then it will move to the next flow, the main workflow. So even this workflow, it has one more usefulness. Like what we can do is, see, we did not create the form till now, like it's in development. In a way, like the output mapping and input mapping variables can be mapped over here. So for example, one proper example would be what would be the date of birth. Okay, from the actual form, the date of birth can come as DOB or date of birth or anything, but our output can be defined as DOB. This we can continue our development stating from our output mappings variable like DOB, and we can just define all the values with respect to the date of birth over here, and we can use it. So kind of whatever changes over here, we can change only in this place. Automatically, the output mapping is not going to change anywhere. So this is going to be constant in our calling workflow. So this is the initial gateway which we are trying to implement it. As soon as we complete with the initial default validations and stuff like that, we'll go to the next workflow, which defines the whole logic of how the calculation happens for the assessment needed. So I have given something called as calculate or use DMN to retrieve cost for most of my tasks, like for the calculation cost. But what it means is, like, for each and every cost, the calculation differs. See, let's take an example of tuition cost. Okay, so if you take an example of tuition cost. Okay, see, the tuition cost will be calculated either from Appendix 3's variables of values of Q25A or 25B, addition the sum of Q25A and 25B. Or if this is not present, they will take the tuition field from the form that has been submitted from by the student. So this is a simple calculation. Here it will be like a sum of Q25A plus 25B or tuition field. Okay, but if you take the book cost, okay, in the same scenario, if you take the book cost, it has a calculation which has to be derived from the actual data model notation. So for example, and also the amount from Q25C. Okay, so this is not the final workflow, but it's kind of an to understand, like, here there will be a series of steps which reads the data model notations and does a small calculation over it and then retrieve the book cost. So those kind of things will be there, but for the draft notation we have completed all the major gaps, and we have come up with the overall kind of a flow diagram, like how the workflow will look like. This is how it looks. And even for example, so this way, like, we were able to just segregate all the costs that will be incurred by the student, and we are calculating the total cost. That if you just see, like, we are just adding the step 1 to 7 to just calculate this total cost, and then we are just finding what are all the resources that are available for the student. Like, see, for example, there is a student contribution, there is spouse contribution, and a parent's contribution. So this way, we also, like, differentiated what are all the types of contribution a student can have, and we have, we were able to segregate everything, and we have all the calculation over it, and we were able to find the total resources that are available for the student. So on the actual sheet, okay, the calculation was like the total cost minus the total resources available. That is how we calculate the access needed. So we use the same formulae over here. And also we also have a calculation for the interface, MSS interface, which we use here in the step 11. that is from the external source MSS interface, which gives an idea of how much assessment it is needed for a student. So we compare between these two results and we just give the lower one. We'll just approve the lower one and we'll try to show it in a dashboard. So why are we showing it in a dashboard is, for example, it's not going to be a compulsory step, but when the ministry or anybody wanted to just go ahead and see like what is the approval that goes for a student, in this dashboard will show like it'll just show like tuition cost equal to this, book cost will be this, and at the end the total cost will be that. So kind of a dashboard we can just show it in a task dashboard, so that it'll be kind of an explanatory thing, like you'll be able to understand what is happening in it. So that is the whole workflow we have designed in this sprint and story. And we have also defined major gaps, like see, for example, when a student is a dependent or not, or what is his living situation, defining the living situation. See, for example, we have this defining the living situation in words over here. So we just converted those things into actual data model notations here. So this data model notations, so this is kind of an input from the form of the student. Okay, see, for example, he'll be selecting in his drop down, like his marital status will be single, and he do have a dependent in for him or her. Okay, so if these two values are there, and whatever situation he is in, for the living at home, either he is living at home or not in his home, he or she will be considered as a single parent, no dependent considered. This output will be used in the student living allowance. Like, see, if you see this, the single parent, no dependent considered will be an input. So if you see, like, these two are the inputs for this DMN. So single student, no dependent considered will be taken as consideration, and the program will be taken as an input. And with respect to the particular province which he is or she is going to apply for, see, for example, if she or he is going to apply for British Columbia, I think 2051 will be approved for 2021 program year. So in a way, this is like completely, I would say, like completely customizable with less changes what we can do. The workflow is not going to change anytime soon. If even if you're going to change, it's going to be just one or two task flow diagrams over here. And if it's not going to change, it's going to be just addition or adding one or two values over here for a particular year. So this
So
is all
Guru,
about it.
yeah, I mean, I think what you're highlighting is the critical nature of how we're using the mass breakdown, which is
Sure.
really the rules, and building those now into the new system. And I think this just shows the incredible complexity of our current system and how our system, and we're paying homage to the tables that are updated on a regular basis. And so we are in some ways reusing those concepts, and we'll take all of those rules and make sure that we tell the system when the program year is this and the data says this, then do this. And those are the business rules that we need to build in order to make sure that we are assessing information in the same way that SFAS has been doing it, and where is in alignment with our policy, which we are not changing as it relates to assessment. So thank you for showing us that. There's a lot of complexity here, and you can see a lot of information, but super exciting because this is really important. Because once we have this, then we can press submit on the application and have those rules be applied and get an output of a notice of assessment. So it's a really critical piece of work. So thank you for showing that.
Yes, and also that logical workflow diagram is not just a Visio diagram. It's a dynamic visual flow that has business rules behind each one of those boxes, so we can see it visually, which will be really helpful if we need to navigate for root cause and issues. Okay, we're going to pass the mic over to Andrew Signori, who's going to talk about his work this past 2 weeks on CRA integration.
Hello, Michelle.
Okay, can you see my screen, right?
Yes.
So just to try to make things a little bit less abstract, what we are trying to do here, or what we did so far, this diagram is in our repo, so it's public there. We live here in OpenShift, is the place where our application is right now. And the left here, we have the ministry current network. So we have what we call zone B. That's nothing more than the zone, the network that can communicate with CRA. So in order to do the SIM validation or any other communication with CRA, we need to communicate from our current place all the way through the ministry, this beautiful zone B and CRA. So we built that path. Right now, we are able to communicate from our application database to the ministry network, to CRA, and get an answer back from CRA. So that is a little bit abstract, but that URL here is our application, okay? This application can now establish a communication and send a file. Here is 000 something 7 to the ministry network. So this server here is a server into the ministry network. And the CRA file is nothing more than this. A bunch of numbers that contains the SIM number and some numbers that ask the CRA to do the SIM validation. So right now we are able to generate the files from our database, send it to the ministry network. Ministry network is going to send to CRA. And all the way back, we are going to hear from CRA something again like that. Believe me or not, that's an answer that says this number here, and the numbers here say it's valid, it's not valid, it match, it not match. So we built basically all the way through CRA and back. We're just missing the last piece, that is getting the information from here back to our DB, but we basically established the path all the way through. The file is valid, CRA understand it, we receive the answer is correct. We are just gonna read it. So basically 90% of the way to do the SIM validation. And the same process, basically exactly almost the same process for income validation that's gonna come next. So there are many challenges between like creating the path between our current network to the ministry. So many work happening in the backend to open this communication. The communications work, it's safe, it's secure, and it's done.
Yay!
That's it.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, and next week we're gonna actually build it. Very exciting. Thank you for that, Signori. Okay, so now we can go to our questions. We have quite a few today, which is awesome. So Lise, why don't you just start going at them?
Sure. So I think we started back when we were talking about, or this first question comes from when I said that we will be pre-populating our system with institution information from the CRM, but not from student information from SFAST. So question is, do we have a list of the types of information we're pulling from CRM? No, not yet. We need to figure that out. We also need to figure out which files are we going to bring over. Because, for example, if an institution has an account but hasn't used it in 5 years, will we bring over that account? What if they used it 3 years ago? So those are some things. No, we don't have the answer to that yet exactly, and we'll definitely need to be consulting with the business to tell us what is the type of information we need. So then next question, this is when we were talking, or when Lynn was presenting the education program and the idea that institutions will enter education program information. And then as much as possible, the system will have a series of automated validations. And so the question is, will we have automated validation if we have to pull information from the regulators? So at this point, I don't anticipate it. We are not building an integration with PTIB, so there won't be any automated there. What we're talking about are things like the institution needs to identify the credential, and there's only certain credentials that are eligible for funding. The institution needs to identify that they are regulated, some of those kinds of things. So we'll have to sort out and figure out. For now, we're adding the fields. We haven't added the business rules yet around the validation. So we'll have to see what can we automate and what are some things that are going to require business involvement before that program can move to an approved state. Will there be a bulk load option for program information and offerings? So yes, we've talked about that, absolutely. We're only showing you today the one-off individual institutions signing in and adding a program. We've talked about the need for bulk upload. We're also doing some work with the institutions to find out what they need and how they do that. I anticipate that we are going to need a bulk upload. We'll have to figure out what bulk means, because that's something that we're discovering means different things to different institutions. But certainly I anticipate that that functionality is certainly something that we are going to need. Can they copy a previous offering? So, for example, institution has an approved program, let's call it a Bachelor of Arts in Engineering, and they're adding an offering, and maybe they want to copy that offering. We've absolutely talked about the ability to copy and then maybe edit the cost information, because maybe they want to do next year's, those kinds of things as well. Absolutely, we've talked about that. So we can maybe show you that as we continue to move forward in our program piece. Will semester-based apps be supported? Not really sure what this one means. We are planning on making sure that we're asking the institution, is this a credit-based or is this hours-based? Could I think that was you, Sarah. Could you tell us a little bit more so we can answer that question? Sarah may have had to sign off, so maybe we can just make a note to follow up on that one. Okay, so we'll just need to find out more about that. Speaking of pathways, yeah, there's a comment about reusing the pathways, and this is good practice, so we want to keep doing it as much as we can, and certainly encourage other areas of government to do the same. So we talked about institution users, and was showing you how to add an institution user, which comes from a list from BCEID. And so just to be clear, we're only seeing the list of users for that organization. We're not seeing all business BCEID users. That's just for the business BCEID users associated to that organization. So will our staff be able to see all institution users? Whatever is privacy appropriate, we'll manage that. We have yet to design and build the ministry staff side of things, but I anticipate that, again, it would be organization based. We wouldn't need to see an institution that isn't applying for designation. So I hope that answers the question. So this one, and I might need some help on this one, Andrew, and you can tell me if I get the answer right. So, and I was having a side conversation with someone about adding or in this case, removing users. So we had a conversation about this, and so we've added users here. but an institution goes into their BCE ID account and removes users, someone leaves. So presumably that person is now no longer on the list, does not show up on our list, and is no longer able to sign in. Is that correct, Andrew? Because they're no longer on our list. It won't show up.
So when you go to add the user, it won't show up, but it already be in the list.
Right.
Unless we build the feature or function to be able to do that, it won't necessarily be automatically removed, but it is something that can be built. So when
Okay.
you go to look at the list, like do a sort of cross check back, like and we could make it so we could disable users or something like that if they no longer
Yeah.
exist. But as of right now, no, they wouldn't.
Hey,
Okay.
Elise, just keep in mind that when the user is removed from the BCID, the user is no longer be able to log into the system. So
Yeah.
that's for sure. And the list we can talk about like cleaning it.
Yeah. Yeah, because now we've got just bad data, right? Someone's identified, but they don't have access. So we did identify the need to remove, and we put that on the backlog, if I recall correctly. But that's something we'll have to make sure that we end up with a cleanup, so that we don't end up with a bunch of people listed inside our system, but who no longer have BCE ID access. So thank you for that. Can they edit existing users to have different roles? Yes, you can edit the role, and of course the admin user can also edit their access profile as well. So for example, an individual might be a primary contact, but they're not the primary contact anymore, someone else is. So you can remove it from them and give that role to somebody else. Yes, that is absolutely the plan. Their user role, their access profile might change as well. Perhaps they become an admin user, whereas right now they're only a user. So those can absolutely be edited as well by the admin user.
Nice.
We're missing questions. I think those are the big ones. There was lots of yay for the complexity of the rules, which is great. And then a number of folks, we often finish around 11. So I think a number of folks that have hedged their bets and headed out for 11 o'clock.
Any other questions before we let you go? Comments? All right, maybe I'll see you back in the office July 15th, July 1st, September 7th. All right. Sometime.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, thanks so much, everybody, and look forward to seeing you all again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, thanks
you.
everyone.